Being ignored is one of the worst feelings in the world, especially when it's being ignored by your romantic partner. So, are they stonewalling you or are they simply giving you the silent treatment? And what is the difference? First, let's get into stonewalling. Stonewalling is far more common with a person that has avoidant attachment. Both dismissive and fearful avoidance can be prone to this. Now, it can feel like you're being given the silent treatment, but the intent is vastly different. The person with avoidant attachment is not doing it for the purposes of punishing you. What's happened is they've become flooded. Their brain is overwhelmed with anxiety to the point where they can't even think straight. Now, their limits might not be very much. Even a small disagreement can be enough to have the avoidant feel overwhelmed and flooded to the point where they just simply can't even get themselves to communicate with you. So much anxiety that they can't even get words to come out of their mouths. They get triggered into fight, flight, or freeze mode with that much anxiety. And what they're doing is they are freezing. They're so afraid of conflict, so afraid of rejection, so overwhelmed with anxiety that they can't even communicate with you. And they just completely withdraw. This can result in them not speaking to you if you have to see them around the house or at work or someplace that you see them. Or it can mean that they just simply ghost you for a period of time. You're not hearing from them, they're not responding to your texts. And it can be very hurtful. And yes, they could communicate and say, I'm overwhelmed right now. Give me a couple days to process my feelings. But they're not doing that. They're not really considering you. They're considering themselves and soothing their own anxiety. These are people that grew up in households where you don't talk about feelings. There was consistent childhood emotional neglect. So they had to figure out how to deal with their feelings on their own. Nobody ever showed them how to process anxiety, process stress, or deal with any life issues in general. They had to suck it up and deal with it on their own. In their households, if you were sad, if you showed any kind of negative emotion, it was shot down. If you're sad, go be sad in your room. Nobody wants to see it here. Your emotions are an inconvenience, and your emotions are not welcome here. So this person learned to bottle it up, but they never really learned how to release that stress, to deal with it. So they just stuff it, avoid it, and avoid it to the point where their anxiety levels come down, and then they can re-engage again. This is what the avoidant is likely doing to you when they go quiet, if they are truly an avoidant. They're likely so overwhelmed with anxiety and fear because they're very afraid of getting rejected by you. They've learned to associate communication about their feelings with rejection and sometimes even abandonment. So if they express themselves in a disagreement, it becomes terrifying to them. Yes, these are deep insecurities, and when they are triggered in these insecurities, they are completely thinking of themselves and not the impact that this is going to have on you. They're not thinking of how painful and agonizing it is to be on the receiving end of stonewalling. They're not considering your feelings, but they're not doing it for the purposes of hurting you. Now, the silent treatment, on the other hand, is a different story. Let's get into that. The silent treatment is a punishment. The person giving you the silent treatment is doing this for the purposes of hurting you, to make you squirm, to make you capitulate and bend to their will. This is a person that either believes they've been slighted by you or believes that they can manipulate you to get you to do something by going silent on you. It is an intentional choice. This is not a person that's flooded with anxiety. This is a person that's trying to hurt you. And this person is most likely going to be a narcissist. Narcissists love to use the silent treatment to hurt their partners. Now, narcissists, to understand them, they go into a relationship for an entirely different purpose than an avoidant. An avoidant, at least at some level, wants love, they want connection, they want romance. But the narcissist wants narcissistic supply. Narcissistic supply is the attention, adoration, affirmation, validation, power, and control that a narcissist feels entitled to. Nothing makes them feel better than having power and control. So they use the silent treatment to gain control over you, to get you to squirm, to get you to bend to their will. Plus, if they see you hurting, suffering, and in pain, that means they have control over you, that they are relevant, that they are powerful to the point where they can hurt you. And it is absolute intentional weapon used by a narcissist, the silent treatment, to get you under their control and to essentially bend to their whim. Now, yes, it's not only narcissists that use the silent treatment. Anybody can use it, but it is far more common with narcissists, and avoidance are far less likely to actually be giving you the true silent treatment. Yes, they can go silent on you, and it's still selfish, it's still hurtful, it's still not considerate of you, but the intent behind it is so vastly different. Giving the silent treatment as a weapon is a very narcissistic thing to do. And the silent treatment is actually considered to be a form of emotional abuse because you're hurting the other person. You're making them feel like they aren't even worthy of being heard by you, that they're not even worthy of being spoken to. It is absolutely anxiety creating for the person that's being given the silent treatment. It causes blows to one's self-esteem, and it's just painful in general. So it's a very unkind thing to do to somebody, which is why it's considered to be a form of abuse. Now, regardless of whether your partner is giving you the silent treatment or they're stonewalling you, it doesn't mean you have to tolerate being on the receiving end of it. If communication is important to you and this person's gone quiet, this is an opportunity for you to hold a boundary, your limits of what you want, don't want, what you'll tolerate, not tolerate. You can set that boundary with the avoidant if they're stonewalling you, or with the narcissist if they are giving you the silent treatment, or anybody giving you the silent treatment or stonewalling you. Simply say, consistent communication is something that's really important to me. I've noticed that there's been a withdrawal and a lack of communication. That's not something that works for me. So if you're not willing or able to communicate with me and resolve this, then this relationship isn't really something that's working for me. That's one perfect example of how to hold that boundary because you are under no obligation to endure that kind of treatment from anybody, regardless of the intent, because it's still hurting you. You wouldn't do it to them, and you deserve better. Don't sell yourself short, and don't let them gaslight you into thinking that somehow it is your fault, because you can't make anybody go quiet on you. You can't force anybody to shut down and withdraw for whatever the reason is. That behavior is solely the responsibility of the person that is going quiet on you. It's not your fault.